Call the Midwife. This BBC series started in 2012, was originally based on Jennifer Worth's memoirs, side note the books of which I highly recommend, currently spans over 8 seasons, with Christmas specials being a welcome ingredient to many households' festivities year after year. I have such fond memories of watching this with my mum growing up through middle and upper school. It's such a community-feel drama with a fabulous cast of characters all interacting with one another and not just a protagonist. The show has a real sense of place as well, being in Poplar, the East London part of London that it's set, as well as in Nanata's house, where nuns rising early, singing hymns and prayers takes place, as well as records being played, cocktail moments and dancing in the evenings happening in equal measure. As does the hearty meals shared in the evenings at their big dining table, Horlicks delivered to tired nurses returning after a long and difficult birth, and afternoon teas complete with an epic cake eaten in unbalanced proportion by Sister Monica Jones. But we'll get to the glorious cakes and Sister Monica Jones' love of food super soon. I, along with most people I imagine, really love juicy ensemble films and TV shows which just work and have you care for at least 80% of the characters as much as you would for just the protagonist in a classic Hollywood narrative. This is not only an ensemble cast, but a female cast aplenty, full of, for the time it's set in, progressive, independent, professional working women serving a community, its mothers and children. All the characters are likeable, well-rounded, fab yet flawed, making them all the more interesting than many of the tokenistic girlfriend-wife characters we still see in film and TV all too often, especially in stories set in this time period, being the 50s and 60s. The fact that all the characters are so different, like Cynthia and Trixie's personalities in the first seasons, yet are also friendly and supportive of one another, subverts the all too common narrative of girls and women never being able to get on screen. Because of the unique and relentless nature of their midwifery work, sure, they've sort of just got to get on with it, and the sense of purpose that comes with the role would create a sort of camaraderie among them. But the Horlicks trips, covering for each other when they're sick, and just general openness of the characters and vibe of Poplar makes this one seriously enjoyable world to escape to. Because the show follows women attending to a very womanly matter, being the female reproductive system, it seems to always be a thing, like a confession, when men say they watch it. Not only is this frustrating because the show is about so much more than bodily processes, but a time period, the conventions, the struggles, the realities of the people living in it, but also because what this surprise expressed at men, by frankly women mostly, watching and enjoying the series implies is that female characters are not robust and interesting enough for the male audience. Therefore it assumes the male watcher is feminine and kind of domestic themselves, as that's the only possible reason they could find the show interesting. Wrong! It's a multifaceted show centered on educated women and it's flippin' fascinating. But moving on, the series creates important representation for so many deserving issues, including postnatal depression, domestic abuse, abortion, teen pregnancy, grief, homelessness, homophobia, migrant mothers, conflict in families between generations due to the rapidly changing times, and oodles more. Despite it petering out because the 2 actresses involved decided to leave the show, there was a lovely gay storyline between Patsy and Delia. A more major and continuing storyline with Reggie Dwight is just so fab, particularly because I just really appreciate that the show created a recurring role for an actor who's neuroatypical. I think it goes without saying that the show is quite cheesy at times, 70% of such moments being attributed to the smile and expressions of Dr. Turner. However, when you consider that the wife of the actor who plays Dr. Turner is the creator of the show, you'll be doing a lot of raised eyebrow nods and ahs. The tone of the show suddenly makes a whole lot of sense. My favourite character from the whole series is hands down definitely Phyllis, played by Linda Bassett. I love her! The character Phyllis is vegetarian, which for the time is practically vegan. She's also incredibly competent at her job, as well as wrangling young Boy Scouts into line. She's taken the unlikely route for that time period and her gender to save up for a car and learn to drive, making her fiercely independent as well. Go Phyllis! Her friendship with Barbara is also the most bloomin' special thing. This relationship, as well as Barbara being like the kindest and ray of sunshine like person that you could ever dream up. Seriously, I think we should all want to be a bit more like Barbara. But what make her death, spoiler, ridiculously heartbreaking. Sister Monica Joan is another character which I'm so glad has stuck around over the series. Half the time she's annoying because she says so much you assume it's unimportant and therefore you label her as a bit boring, but she's a character which sheds light on an incredibly important reality present in today's world of ageing populations. Namely, she's someone with a brilliant mind that only comes through in streaks and flashes, not in the constant form it once did. But despite her forgetfulness and ageing mind, her wisdom always comes through, often pulling the younger nurses out of pickles of their own, subverting another trope of the crazy old lady character. You also know I really do like female characters who unashamedly love their food, so of course I love Sister Monica Joan for this very reason. Her childlike stealing of the baked goods in Donata's house and insatiable sweet tooth are super endearing, especially for a nun who's meant to refrain from the extravagances in life. Call the Midwife also really gives you a sense of the masculinity that was prolific at this time. There's the genuine, caring, compassionate friendship type that Mr. Turner and Fred embody. Then conversely there's the I've caught a girl and she's my latest accessory type. The one that tells their wife they should count themselves lucky that they don't beat them, that they provide for their family even if they're off drunk down the pub most nights, absent, bullying their wives when they're home, and exhibit controlling, manipulative behaviour. Some of my favourite storylines include how the sisters and nurses allow a young war veteran to stay with his wife when she gives birth in a Christmas special, a custom at the time that was not at all the norm, to help show him his strength and need in the world despite facing crippling PTSD, or how the nurses and sisters refrain from judging a young man deemed work shy, aka lazy, when you ultimately find out he had a severe illness draining him of energy. That character's bullied and ostracised from his family and community, illustrating the all-round crap repercussions of toxic masculinity. Thank goodness we've come so far on that front. The show, along with oodles more midwifery-themed TV shows I watched in my late teens, like the Australian series Offspring, as well as the UK documentaries The Midwives and One Born Every Minute, definitely contributed to me enrolling in a midwifery course upon finishing school. Lol. I still love the show though, and I'm sure I will for the next 3 years. Yep, it's been renewed for another 3 seasons. Yes! For the weight, respect, and in-depth portrayal it gives to deem typically domestic, feminine, unimportant family matters that are only so interesting when depicted on screen. Woo! So without further ado, let's jump into the recipe section of this video, which I'm quite excited about, in Call the Midwife, but vegan. Hello Honeybunches! So the first recipe is for lemon and dill tofu fish and chips. This is a recipe from my second cookbook, which I've decided to share just because it's the best way I've discovered to make vegan fish and chips. And fish and chips as a recipe, as a meal, appears when Phyllis is new to arrive at Anata's house, and she only has the chips because she's vegetarian, as I mentioned. But, you know, we can provide for Phyllis with this recipe if she does a bit of time travel. So you want to start by pressing some tofu. I just press it with my hand really hard between some pieces of paper towel. Don't slice it too thick because the marinade only penetrates so deep. So you want to make that out of olive oil, lemon juice, vegetable stock powder, dill, celery, salt, that was dried dill, and pepper. Mix that around. Yes, there are some lemon pips in there, but that's fine. Then get your hands all oily and sort of massage it into all the tofu pieces, and then put them in the container and put a lid on it and pop that in the fridge. You want to marinate it for at least like 6 hours, you know, doing a bit of that motion all the while so it can get into all the crevices. Anyway, not there are many. Okay, so the batter is made out of chickpea flour, plain flour, garlic powder and salt and pepper, and then add some plant milk and some water and whisk that until smooth. This is what you're coating it in before you crumb it. Then you want to grab some breadcrumbs or gluten-free breadcrumbs, or rice crumbs, whatever, and you want to cut nori pieces to the size of them and then dip them in the batter and then coat them in crumbs, and that's essentially it. Then pop them on a tray and drizzle with oil and pop them in the oven for a bit before removing and flipping and drizzling a bit more oil, and then they're done. I know it looks like a random 3 pieces, but I just did a smaller serve because I didn't have that many mouths to feed, so I saved the rest for later. And I made some roast veggie like potato chips, the best kind, and there is a recipe for tartare sauce on my blog too. But that, combined with the lemon and dill marinade and the nori sheets, creates a very lovely fishy flavour. I highly recommend it. Keep an open mind when you're having it, because obviously you can't really recreate the flaky and oiliness of fish. But moving on, coconut cake. So I took a creative license and made a delicious cake that I believe could be in the classic Nanata's House cake tin that Sister Monica Joan always frequents, and I do think she would enjoy this. So you want to add to a mixing bowl aquafaba, plant milk, maple syrup, sugar, coconut or castor, whatever, some oil, I use grapeseed, some coconut extract and some vanilla, and some salt and apple cider vinegar, and whisk that until smooth. Now I made this twice. The first time, which I filmed, rookie mistake, although whatever, the recipe didn't turn out so great, but it's all the same ingredients, so yeah, just imagine this batter turning out a lot thicker. So I used plain flour, buckwheat flour, I used a gluten-free one, plain flour, almond meal and chickpea flour, and baking powder and bicarbonate of soda, and whisk that together. Now, yeah, so it looks really liquidy, but just imagine a much thicker batter. And I was originally planning to make a 3-tier cake, that's why I had 3 tins, but my second round, which was perfection, no joke, I only did 2 layers, so I've cut to the new footage here, and yeah, they will rise magnificently even if you use gluten-free plain flour. It's very satisfying, seriously so satisfying. I've really worked out a flour combination and aquafaba technique. You can't taste the aquafaba and it rises, and it's all a happy scenario. So you want to make a buttercream out of foodie cream cheese, vegan butter. You could use stick with foodie, I guess. Coconut extract, vanilla, and eventually you want to add quite a lot of icing sugar to that. I think it's 5 cups in total, because you're gonna sandwich the 2 cakes together and go all around. I mean, you could halve it and just do what you like. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Anyway, then here's a really satisfying speed through of me assembling the cake. I love watching people who make vegan cakes on Instagram, see their time lapse of this, so maybe I'll shut up and we can just watch this. I'm back. So I made a little garland thing with starry stars as a cake topper, and bloomin' heck, this icing just works like a treat. I'm no icing pro at all. I need to get one of those large spatula knives, but I did pretty well. And yeah, look at that, oh my gosh, the texture, I'm so proud of it. And then I toasted coconut and put that around the outside, which you saw, which is a pretty easy but impressive looking, totally doable way to decorate a cake. So yeah, that's that recipe. I hope you enjoy Honeybunches and it's helpful if you've got a birthday or celebration or something coming up, or bookmark it maybe. It tastes lovely and coconutty, not artificial at all, but yeah, super happy with that recipe. Yes. They're the recipes, Honeybunches. I hope you enjoy them and they can bring a touch of Nanata's House to your taste buds whenever you're feeling like it. I would love to know your favourite characters if you're a watcher of the show too. Did I mention mine's Phyllis? Love her. But find the full recipes as usual on my blog, and I will see you in the next video super soon. Bye.